connotations of what a veteran is. Some people won't consider themselves a veteran if they've never had any combat or anything like that. So what we do is we ask people if they've ever served in the military. Some of the facts about suicide, some of the myths, some of the misinformation that's going out there. Realities, talk a little bit about the Operation Save, what resources are out there, and everybody's favorite, we get to role play. By participating in this training, you'll be able to have a general understanding of what suicide is in the veteran community. Some of the things that we talk about, some of the things that when we talk to somebody who is suicidal, some of the things we say, some of the things we do. Some of the importance of saying certain things and the importance of not saying certain things. What the impact of suicide is on the veteran community, and how to identify a veteran that may be risk for suicide. Again, signs, things to look out for, things to ask, things to not ask again, and what to do when you have somebody who may be at risk. Federal definition of a veteran. Who is a veteran? Anybody who has served honorably on active duty in the armed forces of the United States of America. What we do, there's about a stack of rules, regulations, benefits on what is considered somebody who is a veteran who is eligible for services of the VA. One of the things that I tell people is that that's not your job to worry about. That's our job. If you have somebody who said that they've served in the military and they're at risk, just let us know. We're the ones who worry about the benefits. We're not going to ask you to ask them, well, have they served 2 years in care? Have they been honorably discharged? Or if they have a general discharge, if it's honorable conditions. We're not going to ask you to do any of that. If you have somebody who is suicidal or at risk, who has served in the military, please contact one of the suicide prevention coordinators. There's one of us at each facility. It's myself, David Klein over at Phoenix. Louisa Viles is at Tucson, and Cheryl Phelan is at the Prescott VA.
Is there ever a rep that goes to the Southeast Clinic in Mesa?
Yes. What happens is I'm under all that. So the Southeast CBOC, the Northwest CBOC. The CBOC, again, world of acronyms, is community-based outpatient clinic. What they have there is it's sort of like a doctor's office. They have providers there. They have mental health and primary care providers. So they'll be able to provide service.
Evidently I missed it. What's the SAVE acronym?
Signs of suicidal thinking, ask the question, validate the veteran's experience, and expedite getting help. The Department of Veteran Affairs, again, this is where you can get messed up too. It's the Veterans Health Administration, which is the hospitals. And then there's the Veterans Benefits Administration, which is service connection, non-service connection, pensions, things like that. So if you have somebody saying that the VA messed me up and I didn't get the right amount of money for my service connection, they're the ones who address that issue. And then we have the National Cemetery, which is all part of the VA administration. And what does the VA do for veterans? Well, what it does is it provides services to the veterans. What it does is it provides mental health, primary care health, specialty health care to anybody who is eligible and has served in the military. And again, how do we know? Again, that's something that we don't ask you to do, because what is going to happen is you're just going to get mired down in a whole bunch of paperwork and regulations and things like that. What I ask everybody to do is just let me know that you have somebody at risk, and I'll take care of them. If you have somebody who's risk who says that they're a veteran but they're ineligible for services, we have what is called humanitarian services. So we could provide services to that individual, get him or her stabilized, and then get him out into the community, get him and her out to the community. But we're not going to turn somebody away at the door. This is going to be the wrong thing. Suicide in the United States, 36,000 U.S. deaths from suicide per year. Again, that's recent 2008 data. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death. Arizona is number 4. Thing about Arizona, which differs from most of the other states, again, the Rocky Mountain states are usually the higher rates of suicide, and Arizona is included in those, especially with firearms. Firearms are the #1 cause of deaths by suicide. And one of the things that we talk about when we talk about firearms is we don't talk about gun control, we talk gun hygiene. If you talk to a veteran about removing their weapon, first thing that they're going to do is shut down on you. What they're going to say is, you know, no, I'm not going to talk about it because you're going to take away my weapon. I've had one veteran that I'm working with today that what we're asking him to do is take 1 bullet out of his gun each day. And that's how we're trying to work with him on safety. What we do have is we do have gun locks. We talk about gun hygiene, how to keep them safe, how to keep them in control, keep them away from children, things like that. But again, when you talk about removing a veteran's weapons, the first thing they'll do is just shut down and they'll never trust you again. Again, 17,000 deaths from homicide, and again, half the number of suicides. And then homicide is the 15th leading cause of death in the U.S. Again, by weapons. Women attempt 2 to 3 times more than men, but men complete more. The difference is with veterans is that when you're talking to men or women, you do have to assess for weapons. Because all veterans, whether male or female, have access to weapons. Just because you have a female veteran in front of you, don't get into the mindset of, well, women usually do less violent ways, they usually do overdoses and things like that. We had an 85-year-old female veteran shotgun blast to the head. So one of the things that you have to do when you're talking to any veteran is always assess for weapons. When I send a welfare checkout with the police, I always tell the police that they're a veteran and they may have weapons, access to weapons, so to be safe. Men complete, again, 4 times higher than women. But being a veteran increases your risk level 2 times higher than the general population. So again, male or female are 2 times more likely than the general population to commit suicide. Every 14.6 minutes somebody dies by suicide. Again, that's a huge number. And it's estimated that close to 1 million make suicide attempts each year. How we define a suicide attempt over at our VA is any action that the veteran did that their intent was to die. If their intent was to do something else, we call it secondary gain. It's not that we don't take it seriously, we just work a different way. If you have somebody who has a personality disorder who says that if I don't get my medications, or if I don't get my service connection, or if I don't get X, Y, and Z, I'm going to commit suicide. Doesn't mean that we take that any less seriously, it's just how we classify it, that this person's intent is secondary gain. And one of the things that usually happens is if you have somebody like that, you kind of fall into the mindset of, well, it's just Joe, it's just Jane, she's playing games, she's trying to get attention, it's just something that they do. You know, they do it all the time. You just have to remember the story of the boy who cried wolf. At the end there was a wolf. So again, we take every statement that anybody has that they are going to commit suicide very seriously. We don't call it a gesture. We don't say, oh, well, it's just somebody playing around. It's just a secondary gain. We take it just as seriously. But what happens is that's just how we classify it, and that's just how we devise our treatment. Some ethnic groups are higher risk. White males are the highest. White males over the age of 65 are pretty much the highest group. However, the ages of 55 to 62 are catching up. One thing you have to remember that that's also our age group of our Vietnam vets. One of the top things that I hear from our Vietnam vets is, I'm tired of being tired. That they're just tired of going through the same things, feeling the same way. They're on their 4th marriage, they're on their 5th job, things aren't going as well as they used to. There's some cognitive delays, there's some health concerns. They're beginning to retire. You start having the role confusion, the role identity problem. What do I do? What am I role in the family? White males usually have that issue of what to do after they retire. And then you throw in some sexual dysfunction, all other things, identity problems. Like I said, we're seeing a huge increase also between 55 and 62, just because that unemployment, the economy. What is happening is people are losing their jobs, and that age group is not very employable. I had one veteran say that, you know, I'm useless, and I can't do anything, it's hopeless. I can't find a job, can't pay my bills, can't support my family. They feel like a burden to their family, and then they decide, well, the only way out of this is to commit suicide. The lowest rates are Hispanics, non-Hispanic blacks. The lowest rate that I've ever seen is African American females. It's almost non-existent. 20% of our veterans commit suicide. Last year we had over 240 people who self-identified as being veterans commit suicide in the state of Arizona. The VA only saw 23 of those. So we only see 1 in 10. The community usually sees the other ones. Studies have shown that there are lower suicide rates of people who have received VA care. One of the things that I'm doing is working with the Phoenix Police, the Phoenix Fire Department, that if they come in contact with a veteran, to let me know, or to give them the hotline number so they can call, get enrolled in the VA so we can give them the services. Most veterans never even go to a VA till at least 3 years after they've returned. Usually by that time they've burned out a lot of their resources. They've gone through their churches, they've gone through their synagogues, they've gone through their counseling, they go through crisis services, and they've gone through their family members. And they've all gone through those things, and they've burned out all those resources, and then they usually end up at the VA. One of the main things I'm working with is the local police forces and their SWAT teams. Because we don't want the first contact with the police to be a standoff. One of the things that we work with is to do some sort of connection. Because most of the people who work on the SWAT teams have said that if they can get any sort of connection, they can save their life. So we try to give them, especially if they're a vet, we have another negotiator that's a vet, and we try to connect them. 33% of recent suicide have a history of previous attempts, at least one previous attempt. And then decreased suicide rates of veterans aged 18 to 29, again, who receive VA care. Asking them about suicide may lead somebody to taking their life. Anybody here feel like taking their lives right now? That's a myth. That would be like me talking about chest pain and all of a sudden people get chest pain. But what it does is it gets the conversation started. What it does is it gets the veteran comfortable with talking about suicide. And it gets you comfortable with talking about suicide. It gives them permission to talk about their feelings. It lets them know that you're listening. One of the main things that I strive in our program is empathy and concern. That you need to show that you're actually listening to the veteran. If you're sitting there, if you're typing on your computer and you're not facing the veteran is going to feel like, why am I wasting my time? This person isn't listening to me. I've talked to one veteran after an appointment with his doctor, and he said, "How did the appointment go?" And he said, "Fine." That's all the doctor did. They sat there, faced the computer, and typed away. Do you feel that that veteran felt like he or she was going to tell that person that they're feeling like they're going to commit suicide? Do you feel like that person is going to actually listen to them if they tell them that they're going to commit suicide? Most people who have committed suicide have told somebody that they felt like they're going to commit suicide. Or they have the warning signs that they're going to commit suicide. I've had people literally walk into doctor's offices and then walk outside and commit suicide. Most people who have committed suicide have seen a provider with between 7 and 30 days. That they've talked to somebody, that they've let somebody know how they were feeling. And another one is that there are talkers and doers. There are people who just talk about it and there are people who do it. Again, most people who have committed suicide have told somebody what their thoughts were, or communicated some intent. But they've talked about suicide, that they talked about that I'm feeling helpless, that I'm feeling hopeless, that I'm feeling like a burden to somebody, that nobody can help me, that I'd be better off dead. Almost everybody dies by suicide attempts has given some clue or some warning. And most of the people who have committed suicide, 78% of them, have never seen a mental health provider. Most of them have seen primary care providers. Untreated depression raises your risk level 68 times higher than somebody who is not depressed. So you have somebody who is a veteran, which raises their level 2 times. Then you have somebody who has untreated depression that raises it 6 times. Then you have somebody who has access to weapons, probably a mental health disorder, depression, PTSD, something like that. So you have somebody who is extremely high risk, even before they even walked into your office. So these are the things that we ask people to assess when they're assessing veterans. And these are the people who are fighting the culture of asking for help. So when a veteran is coming to you to ask for help, they have gone through all the stigma that they have learned in the service of not asking for help. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. Suck it up. Come on, you can do it. this is everything, be a man. This is everything that they're going against. I've had one veteran tell me that if you want to help me, you have one chance to do it. Other than that, if you don't impress the hell out of me that one chance, you're going to lose me. So that's why I say that if you're talking to a veteran, you need to show empathy and concern. You need to show that you're listening, that you're caring, that you're not in a hurry. If you notice I don't wear a watch, if you come to my office, you won't find a clock. The time that I spend with a veteran is their time. And I let them know that I'm in a hurry. I've got my, I carry 2 cell phones and 2 pagers, and they're all on vibrate. So I let them know that I'm not in a hurry to go anywhere, that the time that I'm spending is their time, and please feel free to tell me what's going on. You make them feel comfortable, you make them feel safe. If somebody really wants to die, there's nothing you can do about it. Really want to shoot me. Most suicidal ideas are treatable problems. I always say suicide is a permanent answer to a temporary problem. When somebody comes into my office, what I try to do is I try to address those problems. I try to see what can I do to relieve a little bit of stress, that if they leave my office, I have at least addressed some stress in their life. If it's money, I can contact people at the regional office to see if we can help them get some more money. There's social organizations, there's volunteer organizations, there's a lot of organizations out there, Wounded Warriors, a lot of organizations that are willing to help veterans. There's housing. We have the HUD-VASH program. There's, we have plus cards. We have gas cards. We have food cards. If a veteran leaves our office and we haven't at least addressed one need, we feel like we failed. What we try to do is we try to give, a good analogy is a glass of water. Usually when they're coming to us, the glass is full and it's about to overflow. What we try to do is take some of that water out of the glass. Again, if it's housing, if it's financial, if it's employment, or if it's just somebody to sit there and say, hey, I'm listening to you, I care. I may not be able to help you right now, but I will be able to help you and I am listening to you. Again, what we really strive is empathy and concern. Showing the veteran that, if not anything, just that you're listening. Some of the things that we've heard is that, thank you very much for just listening. Just being there, just somebody who I can talk to. Somebody who feels that they can understand. You don't have to be a veteran to understand what somebody is going through if they're in pain. I myself is not a veteran, but I do feel compassion and empathy. If I do have somebody who say, I need to talk to a veteran, only a veteran would understand. I don't get into the philosophical discussion and saying, well, I've had all these trainings and I can do this and I can do this. I will get them a veteran, whatever era that they feel that they need to talk to. Again, let them know that they're heard, let them know that their needs are being met. And again, that veteran can talk to them, and again, we can provide the services for them. But again, just letting them know that their feelings and their situation is important to us. This is, he or she wouldn't really die by suicide because of protective factors. Protective factors are factors that while you're doing assessment, you believe will keep somebody safe. He's made a promise, has young children at home, a verbal or written promise, and they know how dearly the family loves her or him. The problem with protective factors is you sometimes may put a little bit too much emphasis on a protective factor. One of the protective factors